Hello, welcome to Open Range. My name is Patrick Hart, and I have a couple of great friends that are gonna get an opportunity to tell their story today. First, I got a shout out. Thanks, Gary Emineth, for letting me co-host or host a segment of the show every week. Thanks for the sponsors for letting us be on air and putting us in the studio. And if we haven't met, my name's Patrick Hart. I currently serve as the state party treasurer. However, I've been involved in the state party for about 10 years. I've worked on every position. I've never gotten a paycheck. And I just absolutely love leaning in and finding a need that isn't being met and then filling that need. If you're wondering how you can get involved or you think politics is really daunting, just come to a meeting and whatever you're good at, just do it for us and do it repeatedly. And that's what we need you to do. And this weekend, I spent some time outside of Bismarck. Of course, I grew up on a farm, but it was fun to get back to my rural roots. And you know, there's this thing that people from small towns kind of just seem to understand. And it's that we're all on the same team and we all win and we all lose together. Now, it's really kind of the most magical thing you can experience because being in a small town, neighbors don't give up on each other. They pull together whenever there's tragedy, like when there's an accident and someone's unable to bring in their crop on a farm. Their friends and neighbors just show up and harvest the crop for them. We're all one in a small town. Our success is all intertwined and it's very absolute. We only fail individually, but as a team, we cannot lose. Now, I grew up saving farms, sandbagging, skipping recess. And I was raised to be an active member of my community. We stepped up as needed. Pembina, my hometown, did not flood in the flood of 97. We fought back the crest. We all came together and came up with innovative solutions to keep the water outside the town. We stood up to that challenge of the moment and we persevered. So my ask this week, the ask is to be aware when action is required and let your morals be your motivation. Now, an old note I wrote sitting in a tractor, I wrote, the value of dirt isn't what it's worth. The value isn't what you get out of it. The value of the dirt is actually what you put into it. You are the thing that your community needs. You are the special sauce and you can be the change. And with that today, I have a couple of change agents who have stepped in, who have stood up, and they're taking action. We have Kevin Horneman, who's running for Senate in District 7. And we have Rosann Jacobs-Fode running for House in District 47. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, this show is going to air next week, but we're just coming out of the 4th of July weekend. Kevin, tell us about the parade. You were in the biggest parade of the year?
Yeah, biggest parade of the year, and the weather was nice. It was warm. It was a summer day, and well attended. And yeah, I think we had a good time. The children were happy. A lot of candy was handed out. And I think we had a very good reception, you know, better than previous years. We were pretty well received, I thought. So
I saw the float. I actually helped donate the trailer and they put it together in my shop. And it was neat to see the float being put together over the last week or 10 days. But I was worried about the road construction.
Oh, yeah.
The strip in Mandan's been a mess and they tore open phase 2. Did that kind of alter or shift the parade route? Or?
No, it didn't. It was different than the previous year, but we set up, instead of setting up in the back in the park, we set up, you know, right on the strip. And they closed the strip at the bowling alley, but I don't think we had any trouble with it. It seemed to work pretty well. It's very well organized.
Excellent.
So,
and Rose, you spent some time with your kids?
Yes.
I love parades, but I also spent some time with my kids.
Yeah, we used to do the parade every single year when the kids were little. My mom would go there and get set up early and we would go. My daughter actually took a nap like on the main road there. She was tired. She's like, I need a nap, and laid down. But the older they got, it just wasn't fun for them anymore.
Sure.
So now we spend our 4th on the water whenever we can. So we took the boat out and had a boat full of people, and all my kids were home, and that doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, it was a wonderful 4th of July.
We also spent some time on the boat, and I am still wrecked from trying to wakeboard. I haven't given up my youth quite yet. But anyway, so you guys, you leaned in You're both running for office. Why politics? Why now?
You want to go first?
Okay, I can go first. I guess I just thought I'm retired now. I was a 40 years union electrician. And I thought, I have a little bit of time on my hands. We're still running an organic farm it's a full-time job for me now, but I still have a little extra time on my hands. So I think I'm a little bit upset about not so much issues, but procedure, like ethics and fairness and the way things are handled, and you see it, in your daily life, and then you sort of wonder, like, why aren't we doing something for these people? And I guess that's what motivated me to try to be a voice for some of the people that are just not really being given the same opportunities that the rest of the people in the state are given.
Absolutely, that's spot on. Rosann, why did you step in? Why politics? Why now?
I think for me, I've been a teacher for 21 years, and I've done a lot of great things in the classroom. I started a dual credit program for Comp 110 and Comp 120, and I've expanded ACT prep for students as well, because the North Dakota State Scholarship is kind of tied into that.
Okay.
But you can only do so much in the classroom. And for me, it was time to step beyond the classroom, because I see what our young people are headed into. And they don't necessarily have some of the opportunities that we had in the past. And I want to be certain that the world that they're entering into has those opportunities available to them.
What was maybe a magic moment where you guys were pillars of your community? You're doing great things, each of you, union worker, teacher. What was the moment where you thought, I got to do more? Was there a straw that broke a camel's back, or was there a point where you thought, I got to do this right now?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say, it is just one thing building upon another. I don't think Republicans hold the high moral ground. I mean, in my district, you had Jason Doctor was convicted by a jury, found guilty. You had Ray Holmberg, you had the destruction of the emails. There's a very long list, and even today's newspaper they started building the military edition for the museum. They didn't have the money to do it, and they just decided, hey, let's just go ahead and start it, and we'll let the state figure out how to finish this, So you take that along with the way the government functions, which is often can be unethical or definitely irresponsible. And then you add to it, like the other day, we were at the splash pad. And I looked at some of the people at the splash pad, and then I looked at, some of the people that are out at McDowell Dam. And I realized that some of these people are here because they can't afford to get in to the pool at the hill or the wave pool. They don't have the money to pay for that. So you'll constantly hear people say, well, if you can't get ahead, get a second job. Well, if you ever sat down to do the math and you look at what you can do with $14 an hour or $16 an hour, and you look at our average home price, and even if you had to use the North Dakota program to, first-time home buyers, and you put no money down, and you had an FHA where they paid all closing costs, you don't buy a $200,000 to $300,000 house on $16 an hour.
Kevin, we're going to put a pause in you really quick. Your mic fell off. We're going to get that back on. Rosann, can we jump over to you? What was your impetus for you to kind of step up to another level of community pillar?
I think it boils down to the spread of misinformation. I mean, if you look at what's out there on the media and what people are communicating to one another, a lot of it is just grounded in lies.
Sure.
And as a teacher, you try to combat that in your classroom. This is the accurate information. This is what's really there. I remember going on a social media quest, essentially, where I was like, I'm going to eliminate misinformation on social media. So if I saw something false or lie, I was posting about it and saying, but if a lie gets repeated often enough, people start believing it. Yeah. No matter how out there that lie might be. So I think for me, part of the reason that I kind of got that next level push was seeing the misinformation that's out there and the willingness of people to buy into it.
Sure. Sure. For me, it was, and I may have told this story before if you both heard it, I'm sorry, but it was Marco Rubio and Donald Trump in 2015 arguing on stage about little Marco's hands. And I thought, my gosh, we're not figuring out how to help our veterans or help shore up educational, deficiencies. We're talking about Marco Rubio's hand size and what that means. And I thought, I got to get involved. This is my moment. And I just kept leaning in. And
well, it was the same thing with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump when they had their debate. It was like they're not talking about the issues.
right.
There's no real discussion happening here. The looming over her, it was just what's happening right now in our political realm. And I think a lot of our politicians have just lost touch with middle-class America. And as they've lost touch, they're sending us on these hunts, these quests into nothingness, essentially, where we're fighting amongst one another about issues that aren't even real issues. I mean, the Starbucks cup. Let's all lose our minds over the Starbucks cup, not saying Merry Christmas. This is not an issue.
Right.
This isn't what matters to voters. And yet they've centralized it in a way that's just alarming.
Nope, I absolutely agree with you. And I'm glad you guys both stepped up. We'll jump more into it after this quick commercial break. Thanks, all you watchers out in TV land. Thanks for getting through those sponsored commercials. And also thanks to sponsors for, again, giving us the studio time. I'm here today with Kevin Horneman running for Senate in District 7 and Rosann Jacobs-Fode running for House in District 47. Kevin, I'm sorry, we had a mic issue. I want to throw the microphone back to you, though. Tell us a little bit more about why you decided to run this cycle.
Well, previously we had talked about, that moment, and everything sort of comes slow and then I just wait till it rolls up. But, one thing that bothers me is frogs, like the lack of frogs. So if I would drive out to the farm 20 years ago in the summertime, there would be frogs on the road. Now I usually might see 2 or 3 frogs a year and, compared to hundreds, right? And what bothers me is the apathy that people have, or just the willingness to just move on. Like this is an issue. The bees are dying, the insects are gone, the birds don't have the insects, there's a lot to it. But at the same time, it's like people are just willing to accept something and say, the frogs are dying, and let's just move on without doing something about it. So like that type of thing works its way into politics. And they're like, well, all politicians are corrupt. And, Democrats are Nancy Pelosi, or Democrats are, something about Washington, you hear the swamp, Washington swamp thing. But, people forget that in North Dakota, it's not Democrats, it's Democratic NPL. And NPL adds a whole nother layer. We're definitely not the same as an East Coast Democrat or a West Coast Democrat. And the NPL has done some of the best things for this state that have ever happened in the state, And the fact that we, have a state bank, have a state mill, that we have a coal, the way that we mine coal and reclaim coal land is so different than what they did in Pennsylvania, where they're still cleaning up stuff now from 100 years ago. I don't like to be lumped together under that term Democrat, and I like to keep reminding people that North Dakota Democrats are different than other Democrats. So I think that we have to make people aware that that we still can continue this tradition of doing great things, and not to lose hope, and not to just write us off as just right-wing, left-wing activist or something along that line.
Well, I'm really glad that brought you up because I've known you for several years. This isn't our first time meeting. And for years in the meetings that we've been a part of, I always remember you saying we have to market ourselves better. We have to come up with a local platform, if you will, because even Fargo and Williston, Democrats might have different values and different visions. So I'm glad that we see you on the ballot this cycle because maybe you aren't a typical Democrat that people think of. But what I like about our party is that I don't think there are typical Democrats. I think that we all come from diverse backgrounds, you know, education, union worker, farmer, business owner. I think that that is the strength of our party is that we do have unique issues to all of us. So, you know, kind of with that being said, like what is your vision for the state? What impacts do you want to make once you get elected this fall?
I think I'd like to concentrate on fairness, ethics, opportunity. I think I'd like to do something more for the younger people trying to get a 2-year education and to make that more affordable and to improve the quality of that. I think there's different paths for different people. You don't really, you know, people graduating from UND or NDSU with a degree and going into law or a doctor are going to have different issues as opposed to someone going to school who wants to be a CNA or a truck driver. And, you know, their debt load is going to be different. Their times available for education are going to be different. What they expect from their education is going to be different. And I think I would like to sort of tilt that a little bit more towards making sure that everyone has an opportunity to get a decent job that has some benefits that enables you to participate in all the things that North Dakota has to offer.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, I was up in Williston, Watford a couple of years ago. I listened to a panel, and the panel of people weren't oil workers. They were pharmacy, investment, police officer was there, you know, a city commissioner was there, and they said, come out west, and you don't have to necessarily throw chain and, you know, set pipe, but we need everyone to work. And that's really what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, maybe a 4-year degree in business isn't necessarily the journey that most people need, but that, you know, maybe a tech degree and coming back to the farm is good career path.
You know, some kind of aptitude, you know, where you're doing something that you're comfortable with, you know, something that makes sense to you, something, you know, I spent most of my life working outdoors and, you know, I prefer that.
Yeah, me too. I love seeing that sunrise. And you mentioned the frogs. I thought that was kind of a clever analogy. I just recently thought about the grasshoppers. Grasshoppers used to be a huge thing on the farm, and maybe I haven't seen one in years.
Well, we'd rather not see the grasshopper, you know, but it gets a little dry and then you have to start worrying about crop damage. But
yeah. What have you been doing to prepare for a session next fall? Have you been going to meetings? Have you been leaning into association meetings or?
More so that than doing a little bit of reading. But, you know, we had a good meeting with Julie from the North Dakota Stockmen's Association the other week. I plan on meeting with Farmers Union and, you know, we get some union meetings and I like to get out into the community and more so than talking to individuals, I have a tendency to more go show with groups. So I have been touching base and I'm definitely open to anybody that Rotary clubs or Lions clubs or anything like that. You know, I'm definitely open to, you know, continuing this right up through and during and after the election.
So we have a couple more months to go. This is, by the way, about the time in the year where I'd started not having pressure on me running as a candidate. And I thought I'm just going to have fun with this. So I hope you guys are having fun with it. But how can we like interact with your campaign? Do you have any events coming up or?
For my campaign, you can follow me on Facebook, Kevin Horneman for Senate. And we do have events basically on a monthly basis that you can follow through the Bisman Dem-NPL website.
Now, I've been seeing yard signs pop up all over Bismarck on the last 2 weeks. Have you been doing a lot of door-to-door or what have your interactions been with your constituent group?
I've been getting ready to put some signs up. So I'm working on the big signs now.
Okay.
And my 2 teammates in the House Jason and Tiffany have been knocking doors like crazy. I've been getting out, but not to the point where they have been getting out. So
what are maybe the three issues that you're hearing, or the three issues that you're going to focus on?
Well, I think, we hear taxes from some people. Some people you hear social issues. Some people you'll hear healthcare. I would say there is basically, in my mind, not a single issue. For some people, it's affordability. Some people are having a lot of trouble with daycare and, balancing that with, is it worth even working when I'm turning over the vast majority of the money that I'm making just to pay for daycare? So it seems like, boy, it's hard to say, but I've gone to people's houses and they've said, hey, everything's fine. I don't have any problem. I'm happy with the way everything is. And, we are very blessed to have, $4,000 per person coming in extraction tax, $1,000 per person coming in and, legacy fund interest, another $1,000, we are in a really great position as far as our state versus other states. And, we're very lucky, but that doesn't mean that there isn't people that are having problems or issues that could use some help.
One thing that really concerns me, and I'll jump on that oil extraction tax, which of course funds the legacy fund. But Lloyd Ondahl had told me in several years ago now, before he passed, that money has to be spent on the people. That cannot go for a corporate handout to some company that doesn't pay taxes. And I've never forgotten that, because as we talk about tilting the playing field, who's going to benefit from it. I don't want AI data centers from out of state coming in, not paying taxes and using our resources to benefit them. Do you have any ideas, any special thoughts on the legacy fund, or maybe where that money should go?
I think the way it's set up now, it's working properly. But I think that we shouldn't use the legacy fund. I was very upset to see a billboard that said, let's do away with state income tax. You have your traditional three-legged stool. And, we don't, an unfair tax would be sales tax. Sales tax hits, lower wage earners much higher than higher wage earners. So let's not, eliminate state income tax, which actually is something that out-of-state investors who own farmland, or out-of-state investors who own oil wells, let them pay their fair share. Let them pay income tax. Let's not just throw all the tax burden on the poor who have to pay, sales tax on their necessities that they need to get through. So I think the legacy fund is something that's going to be there when the oil is not there anymore. And I think it's something that we need to protect. And I think we can live off the interest of the legacy fund. There's small tweaks that we can do with it. And definitely, I would say more on the school trust lands fund, more so. I have more interest in that than I do the legacy fund. I don't think we're sending enough of that school money to the schools.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, I appreciate your thoughts on this. Who can argue with sending money to the schools? We'll be back after this commercial break. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Patrick Hart, hosting this episode of Open Range. And today we have Kevin Horneman running for Senate in District 7 and Rosann Jacobs-Fode in District 47. Did I nail it though?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. There's no E at
It's
the
a
end.
big name.
Yeah.
It's a big name.
Patrick Michael. I would rebrand myself. If I had to start over somewhere, I'd do a two-namer.
There you go. There you go.
So Rosann, we haven't heard a lot from you. Tell us about you. Who are you?
I grew up on a dairy farm,
Oh.
Standing Rock Reservation. So I grew up working a farm, like a lot of North Dakotans. And so that's kind of where I got my start. We were really poor. So I feel like that's part of what's driven me in the direction that I've gone in my life. I knew for me, education was always like my escape route. from poverty. It was like, if I just go to school, if I just stick with it, if I just work hard, I'll be able to get out of that and not be in that situation as an adult. So that was really kind of what drove me onward. We were just talking about college during the break. I went everywhere.
Yeah.
I started at BSC. I spent a semester at NDSU, ended up dropping out of NDSU. It was not the right school for me. Came back, finished at BSC, went to University of Mary. Since then, I got my master's at UND. So yeah, kind of all the way around.
Hey, weird question. So I ended at UMary, got my master's at UMary. I had a conversation with Aaron Oban, who's also a UMary graduate. I don't remember them talking about servant leadership in my undergrad, because now they mention it all the time. And I absolutely am bought into it.
Yeah.
You know, doing work, help supporting others.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember them talking about that like all the time?
Yeah, servant leadership. And the other big thing I remember a lot is balance.
Okay.
Like finding that natural point of balance. But we have in North Dakota, I mean, the number of colleges and universities that we have here, from BSC, United Tribes, UND, NDSU, University of Mary, there are so many educational opportunities out there. And then we have the technical programs that are available as well, Wapaton.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is make certain that we've opened those doors to our young people so that they have a route after they finish high school, where they can go, of what that next step is, and to make it more affordable for kids. Like, I'd really like to see us expand the North Dakota State Scholarship.
Okay.
And I'd really like to see us put some more effective plans in place for student loans.
Sure.
You know, growing up like I did, as poor as I was on my own for college. My parents didn't have a college save account for me, and I have one for my children, but it wasn't enough. It's not nearly enough. And even after their scholarships, I have a daughter who's in medical school. She's going to graduate with more debt than I've ever had in my life. But how do we make it so that our kids can access the opportunities that are out there, and they can go and get the schooling that they need, the education that they need? We have to make it more accessible and more affordable for our young people, because right now the cost is, I mean, they're going to be paying student loan debt until I'm still paying mine. So.
Yeah, I was lucky actually, just in the last 2 or 3 years, I got mine paid off. Yes. But what's interesting to me about this is the circular logic in the university systems, and then the state bank holding the student loans. So the state bank, every year we hear about the record profits that get dumped back into the general fund.
Yeah.
I'm glad we have a state bank. State bank, if you know, your viewers don't know, or if you guys didn't know, they don't hold accounts. They do a lot of, you know, institutional spending, and they hold all the student loan debt though, and they're profiting on that.
Yeah.
And then they're dumping that back into the system, and it's
Yeah.
like, can we just lower that?
Yeah, if we could decrease the interest rate that these people are paying on this student loan debt. And I mean, you're looking at a long-term investment with that. When people get their education, when they're earning more, that's more taxes that are being paid in. I mean, it just makes sense. And even those low interest rates, the state's still generating revenue from that, and you're benefiting people. We talk all the time about how do we bring more people to North Dakota? How do we keep people in North Dakota? We have a need for a strong workforce here. Decreasing interest rates on student loans is an easy solution to solve some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's the way it compounds to me, you know. But anyway, so yeah, education, absolutely. You worked as a teacher as well?
Yeah, I've taught for 21 years.
Oh my gosh.
First 2 years were at Wilton. Since then, I've been at Bismarck High, which is also where I graduated from, which is kind of weird to walk back in there as a teacher. And some of my old teachers were still there, and they're like, Rosann, you know, and so it's like full circle, you know,
Sure.
Going all the way back. But I love teaching. I feel like I have one of the greatest jobs in the world. I get to impact young people, and I get to help send them on a path, you know, into a better future.
Yeah.
And I hold a lot of responsibility to the students that I teach. I feel a duty to make certain that they learned what they needed to learn, that they're leaving my classroom with the skills that they need to have. And I spend a lot of time, you know, working on myself as an educator and improving my craft.
My kids would probably not want me to say this, but you should be really hard on the kids, because those teachers that are, when I've looked back on my education, were the best teachers I had, because they held us accountable and they did push us. So I
Yeah.
hope that's your approach as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I teach advanced placement and dual credit.
Okay.
So I'm teaching some of the higher level students. So yeah, I'm tough, to say the least.
Now, without showing my age, I'll just say that high school was quite some time ago in my life. But I graduated with like 16 credits of dual credit in college, which is, a semester. And I don't know now if that's $5,000 or $6,000 a semester at a local college, but it doesn't cost that much, right? Is there a significant lower expense to dual credit than
Yes.
you would spend at a college?
Yes, absolutely. The dual credit, that's part of the reason why I wanted to get it rolling at Bismarck High, was to get some of that debt out of the way for these young people. But at the same time, we have to make certain that they're receiving that high quality education while they're in high school. We can't just be slapping a dual credit label on it and going, well, now you get this college credit. We have to make certain they're learning what they need to learn in order to be successful at that next level. So a lot of teachers have had to go back to school. I had to go back to school. My master's is in educational leadership. And when I started teaching the dual credit Comp 110 and Comp 120, I had to go back and get the English credential in order to teach that class. We've had a lot of teachers that have had to go back to school in order to get accredited to teach those courses. And it's important that we do that. We ask a lot of our teachers, and we don't always pay them what they deserve to be paid. I've been teaching for a very long time. I feel like my salary now is finally like, oh, this is good. But I remember when I first started out, I could have made more money just because I worked as a CNA for years. That's what I did when I was in college. I could have stayed as a full-time CNA and made the same, if not more, than I made teaching. And then I had to pay my loans back on top of it. I have a former student who I just ran into a couple months back, and she has her degree in education and she's waitressing now. Makes more money doing that.
So I'm going to jump off education for just a minute, kind of put the focus on you as a candidate. What kind of vision are you bringing? What are your thoughts once you get elected? You want to make an impact on X, Y, and Z.
What don't I want to impact? Economy is one of the big things. I mean, we look at affordability in this state, and Kevin's right. We have money.
Yeah. We
have a lot of good things happening in this state, but a lot of that money isn't being spent in a way that I would like to see it spent. We need to turn it back to the people. And we talk about like the difference between a Republican versus a Democrat. I'm a Democrat because I truly believe it is the party of the working class. Like there's this idea that like Democrats are elitists. They're the Nancy Pelosi's, if you will. But I think for the most part, the Democrats are working class people.
Yeah.
Kevin and I both are examples of that. The other people that we're running with in the Bismarck-Mandan area and kind of across the state, I mean, we're all working class. I don't think many of us come from wealth. So I guess I would like to see us as a state move to a place where we really are benefiting the working class and putting that money back into the working class. You pay taxes in order to have programs that benefit you, not to build things that are for people that are not us.
Right. No, absolutely. I always think about the marvelous of the United States is creating that working class, that middle class. That was like the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
And I really want to make sure that we energize that, because it does seem there's a significant departure from, middle class to the haves and have-nots.
Right.
Let's get back to middle class.
And we have I think, misconception of, like, a lot of times Democrats will say, well, we need to tax the rich, increase the taxes on the wealthiest of the wealthy. But I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she's like, well, Mom, once I finish medical school, I'm going to be one of them. And I'm like, no, baby, you're not. Like, that is a whole different level of wealth than what most of us have experienced. And they should be paying their fair share.
Sure.
Like you look at the percentages that are paid, and we're talking about people that are living off of the interest rate or the interest that they gain on their stock investments. It's a world that most of us have never even considered or thought about. Like
Right.
I lived paycheck to paycheck for years. That was when my kids were little. My husband and I, he worked 2 jobs. I was working a full-time job. We were raising 3 kids and we were paycheck to paycheck. We had to pack lunches because we couldn't afford school lunches for my kids when they were little. I mean, that's the reality for a lot of people in North Dakota. And this idea that like, oh, you just get another job is very much like foundational North Dakota, who we are, right? There's a Little House on the Prairie channel on Samsung TV. Don't go there because it's just a rabbit hole that you can't get out of. But like, you watch Little House on the Prairie, there's this idea of like, well, just work hard and all things are possible. Pull up your boots and let's go. But like the government should work for the people and should benefit the people. We shouldn't be asking people to work 2 or 3 jobs in order to.
Welcome back to this last segment of Open Range. I am Patrick Hart, and I can't believe every week when I do this how quick it goes. So thanks for sticking through this. Before that commercial break, we were talking to Rosann Jacobs-Fode, running for House in District 47, about kind of affordability and the role of government. Let's pick up where we left off and kind of continue that. So the government needs to work for the people, apparently?
Yeah,
Is this
apparently.
a crazy
We just
concept?
celebrated 250 years of independence, right? And our founding fathers laid out in that Declaration of Independence, like these are the things, the rights that all people should have: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. But right after that, it says, and it is the job of the government to provide these to the people. And when our government isn't doing that, it's our right to overthrow the government. And I'm not saying I want to overthrow the government. That's not where we're at. But the government right now isn't necessarily providing us with those 3 things: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, for example, look at what's happening with women right now in regards to healthcare. Texas just saw a huge increase in the number of women dying in childbirth with childbirth issues because of cuts that they've put in place to access that these women have to the things that they need. Freedoms. Look at what's happening with immigrants in this country and ICE and this, and the spending that's happening there. We're talking about billions of dollars. And these for-profit prison systems that are being built, that have been built across the country. My husband works at the North Dakota State Pen. He's deputy warden there. But we have more and more complexes being built that are for profit. And the money that's being siphoned into them is ours oftentimes. Those are taxpayer dollars that are going straight into the pockets of these huge companies that are making a killing. Like, so we saw this shift. It was like the politicians sometimes tell us who we're supposed to hate. And for a long time, it was, people of a certain color. And then it was like, well, that's not cool anymore. So now we're going to shift it over and it's the immigrants. Just blame the immigrants. They're the ones. It's not the immigrants that are causing problems within this country. It's, I don't want to say it's the politicians, but capitalism isn't necessarily a bad thing. Right. And I don't want to say that it is. But when the wealthy people in this country continue to get richer and richer and richer, in many ways, we're kind of living in like a secondary Gilded Age.
Sure.
And that happened once before. Teddy Roosevelt, the museum just opening, his library just opening, he was really big on regulating that and bringing an end to the Gilded Age. The fact that Trump came here and was present for that, there's some irony there.
There absolutely is. And I was talking to Nicole, my kind of my right-hand man who helps put this together behind the scenes prior to this. I don't know if he would have wanted a museum in the middle of one of the biggest natural resources that he fought to protect.
He was such a conservationalist. And then we talk about the importance of protecting the environment. That was Teddy Roosevelt's thing. And we have so many things happen. Not just the AI data centers, but we also have oil rigs all across the state that are just standing there, and we have oil spills that have happened within the state that are damaging our environment. And North Dakota is beautiful. I mean, this is a beautiful state. I spend a lot of time out on the water. My husband and I kayak. We hiked the Mattahay Trail a few years ago. Worst hike of my life. I thought I was going to die. It's really hard to hike that trail, but we have to protect our environment. And that's for ourselves and for our children. And we have to limit our use of some of our resources because they're not going to last forever. Oil, coal, It's not forever. And we're going to need to conserve some of those things so that we have them available in the future. It's really easy to go drill, baby, drill, but we can't just drill, baby, drill, because we're going to need that oil in the future as well. And so we have to look at how can we use natural resources more effectively in this state, and how do we expand our use of natural resources in this state in a manner which is cost effective and beneficial to the people.
Absolutely agree with you. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump over to Kevin, give him a minute. Kevin, I wanted to touch base on your bio that you gave me. You're a lifelong union member. Can you talk about your experience in the union and how union has helped?
Yeah, I tried college for a while, and then I've gone to different colleges throughout the years for different subjects and different licensings, like I'm an insurance license, real estate agent, that type of thing. But the union has always been my mainstay. And I'm just think that is such a game changer for anyone to be a member of a union. I mean, to get that the security, to retire with a pension, to have health benefits, to have someone protecting you, at the work site so that you can work in a safe environment. All very important to me, even to the point that when I retired, I took a job at Bobcat here in Bismarck and helped them get the union back into the Bismarck plant. So I think that, when you tell people, you're not making enough money, go get a second job, but it's industries that could benefit. When Walmart or McDonald's, a substantial amount of their employees are collecting food stamps. And if they're also getting housing assistance and utility assistance and food stamps, this is actually money that's coming from every resident, every taxpayer, but it's not necessary. Walmart has hundreds of billions of dollars in the bank. There's no reason that they can't pay their employees $32 an hour with vacation, with holidays, with sick leave, like any state, federal, or county employee would get. But yet we let these companies, get away with murder. They're taking extra profit out of their companies and they're forcing those expenses onto us. It's ridiculous, and this is the type of thing that unions, fight to stop. So
I love that. Go ahead.
It's like an indirect subsidy.
Right.
When we're allowing corporations to low cut their wages and then paying for welfare for the people that work there.
And now the issue is housing. Now they want affordable housing. So you don't need to subsidize housing if you would pay your workers $32 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, now you want us to, so you can continue to make record quarterly profits quarter after quarter. Now you want the taxpayers in North Dakota to supply housing for your $14 an hour employees.
And we're pointing the finger at the wrong person, because we're pointing the finger at the mother who's on welfare, the family that's on welfare, rather than this corporation that's not paying what they should be paying.
Yeah. One of my happiest moments as a business owner isn't when I got to buy a new truck. It's when I got to see my guys buy a new truck and when they thought that they were secure enough to get into a mortgage.
Yes.
And I love seeing that growth. And I wish that that would be more prevalent in corporate America.
Yeah.
We're coming up to an end. Can I give you guys each maybe a minute to make a pitch on why is Rosann Jacobs-Fode the perfect person to vote for this cycle?
I don't know. I don't think you can look at anybody and be like, that is the person. That's the perfect person. But I think what I have to bring this state and what I can do to help ensure a better future for North Dakotans, I think that's why it's worth voting for me. Because I do have plans of things that I would like to see put in place for education, to improve affordability, to ensure that taxpayer dollars are being spent responsibly. I know Democrats get a lot of slack for being the group that wants to raise taxes. I don't want to raise taxes. I don't like taxes any more than the next guy. But what I do want to see is the money that is coming in through taxes being spent in a manner that best benefits the people. We were talking, like Kevin talking about unions. Unions are vital. The Dem-NPL party, most all of us were just endorsed by the North Dakota Federation of Unions.
Okay.
So, I mean, when I say I believe that we are the party of the working class people, I truly believe we are the party of the working class people. And so voting for us is a vote in many ways for yourself, because my job is to serve the people of North Dakota, and that's what I want to do.
You got my vote. Kevin, why are you the guy?
I think, if I look on life experiences, I worked in hospitals, I've worked in factories, I've worked in oil fields, and all along the way, you pick up a little bit of knowledge about that industry. I think with my background, in construction, but along with farming and the college, the education, that I've had over the years, I feel as if I can represent pretty much everyone in the state. I don't feel as if I am specifically targeted to one group. I feel as if when someone comes to me with a problem, I think that I can understand their problem, and I think I can find a solution for their problem. So I feel as if I'm approachable and I'm an ideas guy, and I think there's more than a few things that we can do to make this a better state.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for running for office this cycle. Quick before we wrap, I got to let you guys know that this next upcoming Tuesday, July 14th, 6 p.m., up at Four Bears Casino in Newtown, all of our statewide candidates are going to be there for a town hall, because we want not only to pitch ideas, but to listen to what's going on. And then again, rugby on July 30th. And I do have to give a shout out too, if you guys have an opportunity to call Julie Forchek's campaign and tell her that she needs to debate Trygve Hammer and to work through the political process. He is available for a debate, and she is unwilling to take that. So call Julie Forchek and make sure that she hears that she should be a candidate. And then in closing, I'll just say that, again, there's something different about North Dakotans. If we want something done, there's no one else but us to do it. And so we have to find a way to work together and to get it done. I'll see you soon on the trail.